Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are. And welcome to Let's Coach 2023. Well, I'm so excited to be here today with you. And this is a program through Life Coach University. And I hope that you take the time to check out our platform. If you already haven't, there are so many things going on here on campus, and um, it's just a wonderful resource. I love looking through it for myself, and I know you'll enjoy looking through it for yourself too. So today, we're going to discuss the topic of capacity. And this is one of the most interesting aspects of coaching, or even if you're not a coach, of understanding something about ourselves that I found so powerful. Not only powerful as in its effect on me, but empowering to have this knowledge and understand where sometimes our stuck points come from, where we feel unable to do certain things, and why we feel unable to do certain things, yet we know we have the skill set to do so or the knowledge to do so. And that really has to do with capacity. And when I hear of capacity, I think of either people in a room or dealing with science and like electricity. So it's neither of those, but your emotional capacity. And sometimes actually there's different types of capacity that are related to your emotions, but usually you see it in your emotions where the capacity shows up. So what I mean by that is, how much can we hold of something? We each have a different capacity, not ability, but capacity to feel certain emotions. And when I say this capacity, it's more of a comfort zone that your brain is willing to work within. So you can have a certain capacity for a certain emotion. And it's not that you're not able to feel more of that emotion, but we have almost like a regulator in our minds, in our body, that allows us to feel a certain emotion up to a certain amount. And then there's some type of discomfort or unfamiliarity that sets off our primitive brain. And then we start to shut down that emotion, or we start to step out of it, or we step away from it. And this shows up often in our stuck points in life. Why can't I? Why is that person so happy who has so little? And yet I have so much, and I still find so many reasons to complain or criticize or to be frustrated, right? And it has to do with capacity. And so we have to go back sometimes to understand what thought even generates that emotion, and what thoughts limit us feeling that emotion. Because we can actually have both going on at the same time. It's just a matter of what one are we choosing to focus on. So sometimes it'll be the thought that allows you to feel an emotion you want to feel. And then when you hit your capacity, a different thought is going to come in, and it's going to sound like, that's enough. If we feel this anymore, something bad's probably going to happen. Or you always mess up at this point, something along those lines. And so This is a process that we can pick apart for ourselves. It looks different in everyone. What thought generates what emotion, what emotions we have a capacity around, like a measurable or not measurable, a capacity that prevents us from moving forward. It's going to look different for everyone. But the foundational process is to first get familiar with which emotions are limiting, right? You don't have to know what the limit is, but just in what situations do you tend to walk away from an emotion or shut down from an emotion? And what are those emotions, right? So again, this is really stepping into wanting to increase your positive emotions, the emotions that you want to feel, right? And when I mean positive, I really mean the emotions that are going to get you to where you want to go. Not so much positive emotions as you have to have a smile on your face or you have to be jumping with joy. Sometimes it's the emotions of discomfort that we have to get used to get us to the next stage or level of where we want to be. So it's not so much fun or, gosh, what are some other emotions? Joy, right? Happiness. So those are typically the emotions we'd put in the positive category, right? But it doesn't have to be per se the positive category in that sense, but positive category positive category in the sense of, is that emotion helping you to get to where you want to be? And then checking in to see what emotions exactly are we limiting? So very often, right, this is where our stuck points are, like I said. So examining this is really going to help us not per se achieve whatever it is or get to that next level immediately, but at least figure out where we have some work to do to then help ourselves get to that next level. So getting all of this out, right? What emotion is it? And then what thoughts go behind that emotion? Figuring out what that is. And I always highly encourage you to write this out, because as pivotal as that moment may feel, like, oh, Eureka, I really understand what that emotion is. I really understand what that thought is. We easily lose these if we don't write them down. So for your benefit and all the hard work you probably put into figuring this out, I highly encourage you to write it down. And also when you write it down, it pulls it outside of you onto something that's a little more neutral, a little more objective. And it is very different reading from the outside your thoughts on paper versus thinking them in your head. Because when we think them in our head, we think that they're true and we take them very personally. So when we draw them outside of us, we gain a better sense of objectivity and we depersonalize the thoughts and emotions that go with it. So that is one encouragement I have for you on where to start. And then think of something in your life right now that you feel you have a sentence in your head, something like, oh, I feel so held back. Why isn't this happening faster? Why isn't this better? How come I have to do this so many times? Why doesn't this come easily to me? These are the train of thoughts, or the types of thoughts that are very often related to causing or to feeling stuck or something related to capacity, right? Or why can't I feel that? Why is that other person this or that, right? Why is that other person able to do that more easily than me? Why is that a person able to enjoy something more more than I am? Why does that person seem grateful when I don't? Why does that person seem happier than I am? Why is that person always so fun and I feel so boring? So these are the kinds of thoughts behind a lot of those emotions that are that you have a capacity for and are worth looking into because it's preventing you. It's a challenge. It's a hurdle right now to something that you eventually want to get to. So take the time to think about these thoughts that I listed off, and then obviously you'll have some of your own. And then figure out what emotion is tied to those sentences that you wrote down. And again, it might be gratitude, it might be happiness, it might be fun, it might be excitement, right? And also, like I said, sometimes it's discomfort, right? How do you um, deal with discomfort to get you to that next level, which often getting you to your next level, whether it's a goal or something you want to feel or something or the who you want to be, is often tied to that. So what emotion is that? Is it discomfort? Is it fun? And then when you figure that out, then your goal is to increase your capacity to feel that emotion. And the way I think about it often is like blowing up a balloon. There's so much effort we have to put in to increase that capacity, and it's tiring, right? And we increase it little by little, right? Most of the time, we're not going to be able to take one breath and blow up a balloon as big as we want it to be, or whatever size it's supposed to be, right? It's little by little. And so, and there's those moments, right, where the air comes all out of it, right? And so that might feel like your energy is like, oh my gosh, I put something so much into this, and you're not noticing the benefits right away, right? Or in the way that you think. So it feels like all that air is coming back out. Where did that energy go, right? And I feel like I'm starting over. But if you have done this before, right, we know that balloons, once we blow into them and we've stretched them out once, even if the air comes out, it's so much more easy to blow them up again because they've already been stretched out. So even if you hit that experience of feeling like I really tried so hard to increase my capacity, but I still feel stuck at the same point, what is going on? You might need to step back a little bit and just think about how you want to increase your capacity, but you have done some work and it's going to come much easier and much quicker that second time around. And so the process of actually increasing your capacity is the hard part of taking that step to go a little bit beyond yourself, right? And intentionally practicing feeling yourself with that emotion instead of walking away from it out of discomfort or some kind of narrative in your head that's saying, right, when we feel good, typically something equally as unpleasant is around the corner, or whatever that narrative looks like in your head. So now it's choosing how are you going to increase your capacity, right? So for me, I tend to be a very, what I label as a practical person. I would say that there's a couple of us in the family that are like that, and there's several of us that are not, right? Always dreaming a little bit bigger, always expecting a little bit better. And one of the thoughts I have sometimes is, wow, how do they do that, right? How are they able to do that? How are they able to see the glass half empty. The way I think about myself is I just see the glass as half. It's half full and half empty. But in reality, I would probably say it's half full, if I'm honest with myself. And the other part of my family would say, or I would say it's half empty, sorry. And they would say it's half full. And so what I sometimes have to do is just think like, okay, what is the fear that I have about just switching my narrative a little and believing it's half full, right? And so for me, it's the fear of disappointment, right? So, and it might look different for you, it might be humiliation, embarrassment, frustration, whatever it might be, right? So mine is a fear of disappointment. And the narrative in my head is, well, I'm a reliable person. So that means that if I have a sentence in my head about something and I grab onto it and I decide to believe it, then I have to make it come true. And sometimes that's a lot of effort and I don't want to do that. So rather than saying it's half full, right? And there's something there, something amazing there, right? If I'm super thirsty and I say there's a glass of water half full, right? And I drink it and it's going to be helpful. The way I interpret it is like it has to, like I can't feel thirsty afterward, which is not even true. But that's kind of the way I think of things. That's just the narrative I have in my head. So I'm like, no, if I say it's half empty and I drink the water and I'm still kind of thirsty, it's okay because I did say it's half empty. So I feel a little bit better, but not completely satisfied. So that's the way my brain works. Now, your brain and your thoughts are going to look completely different, but what is the keeping you back from wanting to believe the best or wanting to believe that you can hold that emotion and hold a lot of that emotion, right? So then for me, it's practicing that thought of the next time I see that glass, right? Which literally isn't usually a glass of water, but it's usually a situation. What does that step to just believe, right? It's a choice to believe that that situation is half full, right? What if I just practice believing it's half full? And that's a choice, right? So if we say a glass has 100 ounces or 100 milliliters, depending on where you are, and there's 50, right? Half full and half empty are both true. We get to choose which we believe in. And so it is effortful to believe that. It is effortful to keep thinking that. It is effortful to take action from that belief of it's half full. But that's how we increase our capacity. And just even sitting there, taking the time to do this and imagining it is a huge step. Right? Now, getting to that next step of taking action is what often is the next step, right? So we're stuck in the practice mode, and then we're not in the do mode yet, which is probably why we're feeling stuck or not getting to that last or next level. But practicing it and getting comfortable with it. What if I believed it was half full? What if I believed I can have as much fun as possible, or just even a little bit more fun than I allow myself, and just getting comfortable with that and increasing your ability just to even hold the idea and that feeling in your body, that emotion, which starts as a thought in our head, but then manifests itself in our body, right? Like that's why we say there's a fluttering in our stomach, there's a tightness in our chest, because our body responds to that thought and it creates that entire feeling of a thought to a physical response to that emotion, right? So how do we handle that, right? How do we allow our bodies to feel a little more fluttering, right? A little more tightness, a little more tension at that moment for that emotion, so we could increase our capacity. And that's been a topic that has come up with my students a lot. And I get that question of, what is that process exactly like? And so that's why I always encourage my clients and my students, a notebook could be your tool to unlocking so much of what's inside of you. I would just say a notebook and a pen or pencil, right? And getting that outside of yourself, taking those 2 to 5 minutes to go through this process, and also to commit to it, to commit to revisiting this every single day, and taking as long as it takes to increase your capacity. You know, it is a workout. It's very much a workout. There is a commitment if you want to be somewhere else, right? So if you think of capacity as in, I have the capacity to lift 2 pounds right now, right? And I want to be able to lift 10 pounds. Your capacity to do that, you need to work on it. Maybe not even daily, but you need to be regular about it, and you need to be committed to it. And obviously you need to see it through as long as it takes to increase your capacity to 10 pounds, right? And so that's very much the process that you're going to follow to increase your capacity for whatever emotion you are you're regulating right now or putting a limit on. Thank you so much for being here for Coach 2023. If you have any questions about whether it's the topic I discussed today on capacity, or whether it is with another coach, you are welcome and encouraged to email us at hello@lifecoachuniversity.com. And we love to receive your questions, because we're ultimately here to serve you and to help you feel better in whatever capacity that is in. All right. Have a great weekend. Take care. I'll see you next time.